We always thought alien life would come from the stars. But it came from deep beneath the Pacific.
What the hell is going on?
The first kaiju made land in San Francisco. The second attack hit Manila. Then the third one hit Cabo.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. It's your host, Elias. With me today is just me, but we have a quick review, and let me tell you, it's a mega one. We have a retro review of Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim 2013. So I thought it would be cool to do a quick retro review of Pacific Rim, given that Pacific Rim 2 came out just last week. So I was under the impression originally Pacific Rim was not going to be that great. I had no marketing. I didn't realize there was any marketing behind it. I didn't know who was in it. It didn't look that. It was not appealing in 2013 to me, and so if it wasn't appealing to me in 2013, I don't know who saw this movie. I do know this has kind of a small following, just because of Guillermo del Toro's fan base. He is a stylistic director and writer and producer that really lets his work shine. And so when you see something with his name on it, it's something normally makes people perk up and say, hey, hold on, let's check this out for a second. Normally del Toro is notorious for signing up for 10 different projects and actually completing about 2 or 3 of them, mostly because he just wants to make so much different media, different art, different types of movies and stuff like that. Most of them have to do with creatures and worlds and big scale cinematic levels of storytelling, and Pacific Rim is that to the T. So many people know del Toro specifically from movies like Mimic, Hellboy, Blade 2, Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy 2. That's where the Golden Army, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army in 2008 was the first movie I had ever seen with del Toro's name behind it. I was like, wow, this guy has got quite an eye for capturing, just creatures and world building is what I would say. And it had me retroactively check out Pan's Labyrinth, which I would also recommend as well. It's a highly acclaimed, and I would recommend it just as much as I would recommend Pacific Rim. He is also responsible for the most recent Shape of Water, Oscar Academy Award winning Shape of Water. It once again deals with creatures and mystical things and supernatural, but it also has a lot of human elements underneath it that probably shine more in that movie than it does in Pacific Rim. I'd say Pacific Rim is so wide scale, so big and bold that you have to. I wouldn't say it was the most fully fleshed out of characters, but they could have been focused on just a little bit more. So anyway, I am looking forward to hopefully the new Pinocchio movie that is going to be released from and directed by del Toro. So he's got hell of an eye for style. So let's keep an eye out for him. So after watching the Pacific Rim marketing trailer, the Pacific Rim trailer I don't know if it sells how the movie actually feels. It really just shows robots battling and big monsters fighting and stuff like that. And I think the title screen does kind of takes away from the seriousness of the film. Now I know the film is supposed to be kind of fun and lighthearted and big robot action and stuff like that, but the title screen and the marketing didn't feel like it fit the tone for the majority of the how the movie felt. The movie was like dark and it felt grounded, and the marketing team doesn't really feel like it fit that model. They had kind of more of a Transformers feel, kind of a Michael Bay feel, with the titles and stuff like that, and it wasn't as grounded as I would have hoped it would have been, which probably affected how the movie turned out. Like, if they would have changed a few things about the title, a few things about the marketing, it might have turned out to be a much bigger of a hit. So I do want to talk a little bit in comparison with the Pacific Rim 2, just a little bit. Nothing spoilery. I haven't actually seen the film, but I have heard that this new film takes more of a, like I said, a Michael Bay turn, kind of goofy. Plot doesn't matter as much, but the visuals and action are really decent, or action might even be better than the Michael Bay Transformers movies. But I don't know if that was the direction that this franchise should have taken. The original Pacific Rim really has a grounded feel to it. So holy shit. So the budget for this Pacific Rim 2013 was $190 million. On July 14th, opening weekend, it made 37. It made $37 million, which is terrible. Worldwide cumulative gross was $411 million. So this movie made its money back probably from the Chinese market and Asian markets and stuff like that. I know that over there the big robots really sell. So this might have been where the movie was supposed to be popular in. And they knew that, especially for Pacific Rim 2. So that movie, the marketing could have helped this movie so much better. So kind of a bummer on that. Anyways, going on with the rest of the film, the Pacific Rim movie 2013, the world building is amazing, and swift. I believe the first 15 minutes they explain why robots are in the world, what's going on with the different types of monsters, and so the world building is phenomenal in this movie. They have within the first 15 minutes they show why everything is really happening, what world we're living in, and this is really great on Del Toro's part. I'm assuming that's what he focused on: world building, the robots, why they're there, the monsters, and just what's going on. And it happens so quickly and in such a swift form that I applaud it. I mean, not many movies set up everything within the first, before the title sequence is even shown. And so I thought the music was I thought it started out strong. It kind of does set the tone for the majority of the movie. It's a memorable sequence that if you played a number of times in the background, it kind of sticks with you. At the beginning I was curious, are there really that many strong females in the movie? I had forgotten. I had seen this movie originally a couple of years ago, and so this was technically my first rewatch in many years, and so I'd forgotten about the strong females in the movie. I do remember that there was Idris Elba, and there was think his name is Charlie Hunnam. And what is Rinko Kikuchi is the lady that plays Mako. There really weren't. Well, let me rewind. Mako basically represented all the women in this movie because I can't think of any others that actually existed. So, we'll continue on with just the diversity. The diversity didn't feel strong. I know there was there was Asian. The Asian market was supposed to be strong, and Idris Elba was supposed to be the African American market, but he was practically the only black guy on set. You had to look far and wide to find anyone of color on screen past Australian guys, some white Australian guys or something like that, or Charlie Day or something like that. Many people might say something about that, if you want to have a movie that's considered diverse, you need to put them everywhere. You can't just have one or two pick and choose. So I was a little taken back by that just watching it. But Charlie Hunnam, I remember him being pretty dull the first time I watched it. He wasn't as dull as I remember. And I'm not sure if it's terribly all his fault. I don't think it was terribly all his fault. I think some of the writing that he had, writing and plot perspective details kind of were holding him back a little bit, but that's not entirely his fault. I just think that might have been a studio thing. I don't want to pin all the way on Del Toro, although I do know Del Toro can sometimes go a little bit extra goofy in times where it needs to be a little bit more serious. So continuing on with the movie, I thought that what really made this feel like a interesting twist on having a robot with two individuals in it was the neural handshake. So it was connecting with another pilot, and essentially brains connecting so that you can control this massive robot. And I did like that they explained sorta that one person couldn't control this entire thing, that it was too much stress on one person, so that's why they had to make it for two people. So the reasoning, I guess they had some sort of reason to have two people in it. I know one person just would not be as it makes it much more interesting to have two people in the pilot seats of these robots. But one of the, let me see, look at my notes real quick. Okay, so yeah, the neural handshake, you either bought it or you didn't. I was you have to buy it just because of the world, but I'm not sure if it makes 110% sense the entire time. Although they do some cool things with entering other people's minds and how that can affect the pilots and how they connect. So during the first couple battles, I was realizing how many times that these robots are just punching these monsters, just like WWE style, like wham. I don't know, they don't punch in WWE, but they're just straight punching them to the face, to the throat, to the whatever they can. They're fighting them with hand-to-hand combat. And if I was in a big robot, I think the first thing you would have first is the missiles. Now, don't get me wrong, I saw missiles, I saw technology that would be equivalent to just having a big gun on their hand, or like cannon blasters or something like that. But there was many times where they just like straight up just punched the monster in the throat. It's like, oh dang, and like, yes, it looked really cool to see a monster get punched the size of a building by a giant metal robot. It's just a cool visual. Now I understand that, but there's just I think more missiles should have been used at first, and I don't remember at the very beginning them saying that missiles weren't working, but I guess they did show fighter pilots and stuff like that trying to take out the monster, and it just didn't seem to be working and stuff like that. But just small things like that, like it might look really cool to punch a monster, but maybe it might make more sense to shoot and do as many things as you can before you get that close to it. I just remembered two things that I wanted to say about the world building. Del Toro went as deep as saying that when the monsters were actually taken down, it said something about like the blood and the chemicals that were coming out of it were polluting the water that it was around, and surrounding areas that the monsters were coming out of. And they made toys. Toys of the robots and the monsters. I mean, just small things like that are just really cool because he paid extra attention to detail, because things like that probably would happen in a real world. I'm not sure if we would. I'm trying to think of the equivalent of scale that we would be looking this at by. So maybe I mean, we have war toys and stuff like that, you know. So I would assume that this would be the equivalent of having like a G.I. Joe, you know. So technically, I think he's pretty on point with how this world would be built. But continuing on, I did see missiles. I saw that type of stuff. I saw cannon blasters, all that stuff. I don't know if they would have been punching the monsters in the face. Going along with the monsters and the robots, just the entire movie has fantastic sound design. Sound design is something I think that is kind of underused, and many people just kind of dismiss it. But sound design is what puts you in the moment. It's what makes things feel like they have weight. When something thumps, when you feel a 210-ton robot smashing a building and a car beside you, like, you know, you can feel it, and you can feel the weight in the movie. Even rewatching it, if you have like a little sound bar or something like that with a decent subwoofer in it, you can feel the boom. I mean, it feels like someone's like a monster is approaching, and so the sound design really helps this movie feel like it's actually happening. And it puts you in a much more immersive experience. When Garrett Hudlum, the main character, his name is Riley. When Riley loses his brother, that was a pretty crazy scene. I mean, when it first puts you in it, and you have just kind of no idea how how it's going to turn out, you kind of assume that it's going to be all good. Kind of starting out. Things go south, and that the battle really shows a decent struggle, and I would say it gives it some backstory where normally you wouldn't have. I know you have to have some reason for him to stop fighting, and I guess having his brother. Now that I think about it, I guess there's a lot of movies that they have kind of brothers, and one of them will die, and so one of them's mourning, and he won't do the thing anymore. I think Eagle Eye maybe had something similar. It definitely wasn't robots or anything like that, but it was Shia LaBeouf, and he had two. He was playing a twin brother or something like that, and he had to take over for his other brother. So it kind of had that feel going. You know, I guess it is kind of a trope to have that. You know, you lose a brother, lose a sister, lose a somebody, and then it automatically gives you a fleshed out character. You automatically care about him or something like that. So yeah, it was cool how it was done. He just went and he kind of undersold it, but he said that he was still connected to his brother when his brother was being consumed by the monster. So does that mean, like, if one of these people are killed and they're connected to someone that's being eaten up like this, does that mean he feels and experiences all the pain that other person does? Or am like, does he see everything? I'm really confused, and I guess maybe Pacific Rim 2 might explain that a little bit more. I kind of doubt it will, just based on some of these ratings and stuff that I'm seeing. But I'm seeing it's more of a fun action movie, and just kind of forgot the plot in writing. So that's it's kind of a bummer. But maybe they might touch on it. I don't know. If there is a Pacific Rim 3, I do hope they kind of bring that back. Although, if they bring it back in 2, then, and they fuck it up, then they were fucked. But the one scene that I remember specifically from Pacific Rim 1 from years ago when I watched it, and I didn't watch it in theaters, which is kick myself on the foot for that, just in the shin for that. I don't just this is a movie that feels like it needs to be on a big screen with nice audio, and it's just big. It's just a big scale thing, and watching it on a television just probably diminishes it just a tad bit, which is kind of a bummer. But it also brought light to how big some of these things were. So one of the scenes I remember were the snow scene where Garrett Hudlum's character is coming back after he lost his brother, and the young grandpa and the son are kind of like looking on the snow beach or something. I don't know what they're on. It's like they're in the snow or something like that. I don't know. And they're looking for, with the metal detector, looking for metals things. I don't know, gold, treasure, and stuff like that. And the robot is like, and it like crashes all in front of them. And the way it's shot, it's like, oh my god! It actually felt like there was a massive fucking titanium iron giant looking thing coming down from the heavens or something like that. I don't know. Coming out of the snow, it was like, and the weight is just felt in it, and it's the way it's shot, it's amazing. The scene just sticks with me. I don't know why. It's just the scale of it, and it was kind of how I wished Transformers would have felt. It kind of gave me Transformers 1 vibes. I mean, by 2013, I'm pretty sure at least 2 or 3 Transformers had come out, and I believe most people agree the first one's the one most people talk about and say that's a pretty decent one, and kind of put us in the world. But ever since then, it hasn't been quite as good. Really gone downhill. But Pacific Rim kind of captured that again in a new form, even bigger, I would say. So, I was really surprised about the title not showing up until after the brother is dead, and so it's like, holy shit, all this information happened. You learn about the world, you learn about the robots, you learn about the monsters, you learn about the main character and all this, and then the title comes up. It is a crazy opening, and it almost feels like a television opening. I imagine Pacific Rim, the like television show. That'd be pretty dope, to be honest. I think this movie could have got a 5 or 6 hour treatment on HBO. Maybe not HBO, maybe Netflix, I don't know. Netflix seems to be better with the television shows and not so much with the movies. But, give or take a couple. So, I didn't really think that some of the plotting of Idris Elba bringing Charlie Hunnam back, saying that there aren't any other pilots that can pilot the type of robot that he drives because they're all dead. Do you think that is a compelling reason to take that job back? I don't think so. Like, like, come on, man. Whoever wrote some of that stuff just needs to just read the sentence again. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Why would anyone want to do that? So, I actually had forgotten to mention Travis Beacham is the writer along with Del Toro. for Pacific Rim. Travis Beacham also did Clash of the Titans 2010, which I did not see. So I also heard that kind of got reviews as well. So could go either way. Anyways, reasoning for coming back and joining the squad was kind of thin for me. But Charlie Hunnam, he's a little dry, is how I would describe him. He's not quite as bad as like a Sam Worthington or something like that, or what is that guy's name? There's a Sam Worthington. There's a list of actors that are just really dry to watch, and for some reason they kind of keep trying to make him a thing. I'll find him in a second. Everyone remembers this guy from. Everyone thinks that he's not that great on it. What is his name? Oh, no, that's not the guy. No, that's not the guy. All right. Jai Courtney, that was his name. Many people saw him on what's it called, Suicide Squad, and were like, "What in the heck?" Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think Jai Courtney ruined Suicide Squad, but he is almost as dry as a Sam Worthington, and Sam Worthington's one step below under Garrett Hoodlum, and Scott Eastwood's all the way underneath there. Clint Eastwood's son is just a really terrible actor, and he looks dead like him. It's like a gift and a curse. But Charlie Hunnam is he's not as bad. I don't know why everyone said he's so bad. I think he's dry mostly because of the writing he's given, and writing and plotting that is told that he has to do. Now, he doesn't do anything necessarily too dumb or anything like that. He is kind of a hothead, that type of thing. He's clearly got a thing for Macchio, who I thought she did a really great job, and I really enjoyed one of her main scenes when she's first connecting with Charlie to connect in the neural net to control the robot. I thought that was a really great scene with the first connection. It really showed what could go wrong if you have someone unexperienced in the fighter pilot seat, she was told that she was all good to go, but Idris Elba, I would say that he made many decisions throughout the movie, and so many people went against his orders. It was kind of funny. I don't know. He didn't have much of. Everyone respected him, but he didn't have much authority. It kind of seemed like that. Mr. Gottlieb, he was him and Charlie Day were the two kooky scientists that were kind of hobbling around and doing a lot of expository dialogue for the audience to help explain how we're going to beat the monsters. Charlie Day, he's a hit or miss for me. He's kind of like a Michael Pena. They use him with the right amount and he's perfect. But if you use him too much, then he's like, oh, get him out of my stuff. But I thought they were a good dynamic duo, which, again, I think this entire movie does a really good job of pairing two individuals off and having them speak, interact, and do things. I thought the future tech was a little bit A lot of the tech looked really good, but then some of it was a little bit not up to date. So Charlie Hunnam apparently is carrying around loads of photos of his family and where he comes from, because anyone that's classic traditional guy does that. but I don't know anyone personally that still goes and collects photos, and it's very rare to have people still printing photos and carrying them around. Let alone, I know that he was he was trying to decorate his bunk and stuff like that. But still, it's supposed to be the future. So let's see some future photography. I'd say that's what I would say. The main base was a lot more tribal than I was expecting. The Charlie Hunnam's first arrival to the Hong Kong base. I mean, everyone's kind of like, it feels like a prison the way people are treating him. You know, they're giving him mean looks. There's basketball going on in the background, and the only thing we were missing was someone lifting weights and security guard with a gun, mean mugging everybody. But it was really tribal, is how I would explain it. There was a quick scene with Charlie Hunnam fighting, I don't know, some sort of dojo, kung fu, something like that. I don't know, with a stick. It shows how much I know about what he's doing. But he was fighting strictly only Chinese guys, I believe. He was fighting like 5 or 6, I don't know, Chinese guys. And he was outschooling all of them. Now, I don't want to be the guy to say this, but we don't need the Last Samurai being a white American man. I'm just gonna say that straight up. I do know why they did it. They did it for to bring more audiences from the Asian and Asian culture, I believe, specifically, because that's their style of fighting. Now, I did enjoy how Makio came in and kind of whooped his butt, sorta. But I would have rather have her just like straight up whooped. Like, she was kind of a match for him. Like, they were a match. So it still showed him so much more superior at a Chinese cultural event than any of the Chinese were. So I was a little taken back by that. And I know it's something you probably have good intention to, and trying to incorporate the audience in, but if it doesn't really, I don't know. He needs to be put down just a tad bit on the scale, because he was just good at everything, great at everything, and I don't know. They kept saying he was a fighter, and that was really the only thing he was fighting. He was doing some sort of karate or something like that, but they never actually used that type of fighting. It was much more military standard and staying in a robot. They never did any of that type of fighting. So I know why it was in there, strictly to get the demographics up, but could have done it somewhere else, another way. Some of the tech looked a little cheap on Charlie Day when he was trying to do some neural networking with other aliens. I was like, $200 million. They gave Charlie Day plastic to play with, because everything else went to the robots and the monsters. But these effects look really good. They look like 2017 effects, and it's kind of scary, because I'm pretty sure these effects might even look slightly better than the new Pacific Rim 2. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going by what I've seen in the trailers. But the Pacific Rim 2 just has less of a Del Toro feel and more of a Power Ranger-y feel to it. And take it as you will. If that's what you're looking for, then that's probably what you're gonna get. But I'd say don't get your hopes up too much, because this Pacific Rim 2 is not Pacific Rim 1, from what I'm hearing. Now, with all that said, I am hearing a couple people, just maybe 1 out of 4 people are saying it's a really fun, schlocky action film. So I don't want to deter everyone from seeing it. So give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe if you got a movie pass or something, it might be worth a movie pass. So I really enjoyed the connection of the neural net bonding between Charlie Hunnam and Makio. This is the point where they pretty much connect on every level. They learn about each other, their past, and everything in between. And I thought it was kind of funny how they were always normally these individuals are pretty straight up. They're just like, all right, well, you're about to hop in my head, so might as well know you're banging or something like that, or you're looking good, or or you're a dick or something. You have to be really open with whoever you're connecting with. So I thought that was pretty funny, and so I don't know if it always showed that they had connected brains 110%. Outside of the robot, because in the robot they obviously were doing pretty well once they got going. I guess I didn't get going until the very end, but still, once they got going. So the transition from Makio going into her delusional state when she's connecting with the neural net is awesome. I would say that it's one of the better practical effects that are used throughout the movie. I think she's kind of, the camera kind of zooms in on her, and they're saying, Makio, don't stay with me, and the background turns black, and she's the only thing that's lit up, and it kind of pans back over, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of like a city or something like that, and then it pans back around and it's young Makio or something like young Makio, and the scale of that just that one scene is so amazing. Just you feel like you're a little girl running through an abandoned city from a fucking massive ass monster, and I don't even know where you would begin to shoot this thing. I'm sure the guys, the professionals do, but it blows my mind how they even achieved this. They could have easily shown this Makio as a young individual running from a monster. 20 seconds of it, just slap Pacific Rim right at the end, and you sold the movie. You did a better job than the marketing team did. It was an incredible scene. So I wasn't too fond about the bully. Obviously there's got to be somebody that the main character is not, he can't get along with. He was kind of a dick the whole time. He did say that he thought that he was, the bully started off by saying that he just doesn't even believe in anything this guy says. He doesn't believe that he should be running robots if he's been building walls and building, construction and stuff like that, because he thinks construction is useless because the robots are kind of exactly the opposite. They destroy things. But that's kind of a dick thing to say, because the robots aren't going out of their way to destroy things. They're trying to protect things, and then things that are protected need to be rebuilt and stuff like that. So I don't know why this guy's such a bitch. But anyways, Charlie Hunnam ends up serving up a fresh can of whoop ass, and it was a pretty decent fight. I would say that was probably the only time he had to use his skills as a fighter, a kung fu fighter or something like that. But I wouldn't even say it was a fight. let's see, anything else we need to continue on with the intro of Idris and Charlie explaining how he knows Idris's relation to Makio, and it continuing back on into the flashback scene. It's a great scene. Idris Elba is just so good. He's a phenomenal actor. I just wish he was in more things and not in Dark Towers. Dark Tower, the movie. He was. I just saw him in The Wire, by the way. If you want to see some more Idris Elba, there you go. There you go. Great stuff. Season 4 is my favorite, by the way. Let's see. Yeah, Idris, he was so good. He said, I can be the only black man in this movie, because if you can find another black man, then you might be able. You won, because I looked hard and wide to find like another person of color, and it was difficult. That I know I did see some Asian individuals, and I saw like maybe one black guy, but I'll say zero everything else except for Makio. But hardly anyone else got any screen time, and that was a big problem in my book. Some of the robot fights were a little bit they were dark, and some of them were just hard to see. I believe one of the first robot fights are when we lose the brother. It's a dark fight, and it's if you don't have like a decent television with the lighting correct and everything, you might not be able to see what the hell's going on. So I have heard that Pacific Rim 2 fixes the majority of that and says we're going to have all of our stuff during the day. So I'm not sure if all of the fights are in the day, but you know, it's hopefully it looks you can see what's going on, because I would say there's toward the end of the last third of the movie of the fights. Hell, it had more like a third end. It had two endings, and I'd say the second ending basically was a lot more difficult to see than the second ending. I'd say the second ending was around an hour and 20 minutes in, and then the final act was the last 40 minutes, and the last 40 minutes was good. It just at some parts it was hard to see, and I'd say that it took it down a notch, just a hair for me. So at the third act, from the second to fourth act, in between there, somewhere around let's say second to third act, sorry about that, Ron Perlman is introduced, and he's great, but he's unnecessary. He's another unnecessary, and it could have been someone else. Now I know that Del Toro likes using Ron Perlman because he was Hellboy, and maybe in something else he's had. I'm not really sure, but it could have been someone else. It could have been someone of color, someone that might have been great for the role. But Ron Perlman was pretty hilarious. Now, there was one scene with Ron Perlman, and he's talking about how one of the baby monsters had just gotten out and everything. He's like poking it and doing some crazy knife throwing thing at Charlie Day, and he's like, and he's like, I should, I need to sell all these, and he's doing this knife thing. He's like, and this monster comes out and like munches him up in like one bite, and everyone's like, oh shit! And when everyone thought the monster was dead, and so I thought that was hilarious when at the very end they show, I think it might even be after the credits, Ron Perlman lives, and I'm not even sure how many people knew that. So I don't think I remember that from the first time I watched it, because you have to stay through the whole thing in all the credits. But yeah, I thought he was it could have been a different casting choice, but it was good that he did, and he did it pretty hilarious. He was kind of in and out. I'd say some of the writing was a little iffy toward the end. Just go do something really stupid. That was a line. No, that's not a good line. You couldn't have thought of something. That's a line you write when you're panicking right before your homework's about to turn in. Let's go and do something really stupid. Like for all the world building, for all the smart things that this movie does, some of the writing a couple of lines just are like, what the fuck? Like you couldn't have thought of something a little bit better. But yeah, just a couple things like that. Just keep it from being a great film. It's a good film, but not a great film. I'd say the visuals are great, but that alone doesn't drive the car. You gotta have all cylinders. So there was a lot of detail, even down to one of the battles that I remember specifically that made this movie great. When there's a big action fight going on in the third act, everyone's going crazy, the monster's going crazy, there's cars breaking and buildings falling and exploding and just insane things going on, and the robots battling the monster. It's like, and it takes time to do a punch through a building, and it shows so much detail. It's like goes through like 20 different layers of building, and then it goes and it barely taps one of those ball things that the mind stress balls that that bounces at the front and the back, and the robot hand barely touches it, and it's just small things and attention to detail that make you laugh like that make this movie noteworthy. It makes it worth talking about. It makes it worth telling someone about, and I think that was the Del Toro touch. But toward the end, just wrapping up some of the last minute show notes, I'd say that it was occasionally goofy, but no more than Independence Day was. A couple of the technical things, they seemed to pick and choose when the technology needed to work. Like when they were talking to individuals, they sometimes used the speaker button, and then sometimes they didn't. I don't know why it bothered the hell out of me, but I was like, you're talking to people hands free the entire time, and then at the very end they're clicking things to make it seem like they need to talk to people, to click something to talk to people. I don't know why there was a speaker button, sometimes there wasn't. I don't know, but the movie was especially surprising that I think it kills over half of the main cast. I think Idris Elba, the bully, the let me think. Well, people think that Ron Perlman died, but he technically didn't. No, maybe not over half, but they did kill a lot more characters than I was expecting, and you see a lot more death. I guess you see some of the other teams dying throughout the movie a lot more. I mean, he killed the main character's brother. People died in this movie, so it's not just a child's film, which is why I'm worried that Pacific Rim 2 is gonna bring it back down to more of a children's, young teens, fantasy kind of thing, like robots fighting monsters and whatnot. So, I would totally recommend this movie, just for the visuals alone, because you'll never see anything like this again. I can't even think. You can say Transformers, but Transformers doesn't do this shit. Transformers is a big clusterfuck compared to this. It's kind of trash in comparison. I'd say after the second, third, and fourth movies of Transformers, they are just off the rails. They don't make sense. The scale doesn't work. Just maybe only the sound might work. So I wish Del Toro would have done Transformers standalone movie. That would have been pretty cool. I would like to see maybe what his take on it would be. I guess maybe it would be very similar to Pacific Rim. Everything would feel small in comparison after this movie because of how big these things are and feel. So, there we go. We did it. We made it through. Thank you for listening, everyone, to the Lucky Dog Podcast. Please rate, share, subscribe. Twitter us, Lucky Dog Podcast. Email us, theluckydogpodcast@gmail.com. Anything else we need? I don't believe so. Well, let me know what everyone thinks. I'm still debating about seeing Pacific Rim Uprising. So, 2018, I've heard so many things about it. I don't know if I want to waste my time. So it might be something I might catch a little bit later and jump into just to do a quick side-by-side comparison. The only thing is, I really regret not seeing the first Pacific Rim in theaters, which is the only thing driving me to possibly use a movie pass to check out the second Pacific Rim. Because if I'm getting some of those big battles on the big screen, I mean, you just never can get that experience back again, even when you rent it back at home. So, hell, if you got a movie pass and you've already seen the first one, yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think of the second one.
End of our time.
Peace.
We've chosen to believe in each other. The day we face the monsters that are at our door. Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
It is pretty cool.
Pacific Rim.